Good morning. Good evening, maybe. That's exactly where you are right now. Restless in the silence of the night, lying awake while the world is still fast asleep. And you're wondering, why? Why am I awake between 3 and 5 a.m.? Is it stress? Is it anxiety? Is it just coincidence? Or is it something deeper? Could it be that God is waking you up intentionally, lovingly, purposefully? Friend, I want to tell you today, when God wakes you up in the stillness of those early hours, it's not a disruption. It's a divine invitation. God wakes you because the world is quiet and heaven is open at 3 a.m. You don't have emails, notifications, meetings, or traffic. At 5 a.m., your to-do list hasn't hijacked your peace yet. This is when heaven is still and your heart is finally uncluttered enough to hear God whisper. God isn't just trying to get your attention. He's protecting your focus. He wants a private moment with you away from the noise, away from the demands, and away from the distractions. In the Bible, God spoke to Samuel in the night. He visited Jacob in a dream. He whispered to Elijah, not in the wind or the fire, but in a still, small voice. God loves you enough to wake you when the world is silent so you can finally hear him clearly. God wakes you because he has something to say if you keep waking up at the same time every night. Stop assuming it's just your body. Start asking, Lord, what are you trying to say to me? Maybe there's a decision you need to make. Maybe there's a person you need to forgive. Maybe there's a calling on your life you've been running from. God isn't trying to disturb your rest. He's trying to awaken your purpose. He doesn't just want to talk to you. He wants to transform you. Sometimes the greatest revelations come in the darkest hours. Why? Because God doesn't need sunlight to speak. He is the light. God wakes you because he misses you. Yes, you heard that right. This isn't just about what God wants from you. It's about what he wants with you. He misses those moments you used to spend with him. He misses the prayers before the rush. He misses the conversations before the chaos. You were created not just for work, not just for success, but for relationship with him. When you wake up at 3:33 a.m., maybe it's not insomnia. Maybe it's the Father saying, hey, I miss you. Let's talk. God wakes you because he's preparing you. Some battles are won in prayer before the sun even rises. Some answers are given before the world ever asks the question. When God wakes you up early, it may be because he's preparing you for something later. He's giving you strength for a test you don't know is coming. He's giving you peace for a storm you haven't seen yet. He's building your faith in the dark so you can walk in the light. Preparation always happens in private. Before David fought Goliath in public, he was alone with God in the field. So if you're being woken up in the secret hours, count it as training from heaven. God wakes you to intercede for others. Sometimes it's not even about you. Sometimes God wakes you because someone else's life depends on your prayer. Your friend is hurting. Your child is lost. Your spouse is overwhelmed. Your city is in crisis. And God is saying, I need someone to stand in the gap. I choose you. Those early hours are often moments of holy assignments. You might not see the results immediately, but in heaven's timeline, your prayer may be the reason someone else finds peace, finds healing, finds their way home. When God wakes you in the quiet hours between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., it's often because the noise of the world has finally settled and your heart is more open to hear him. During the day, our lives are filled with endless distractions, conversations, notifications, responsibilities, and tasks. Even when we try to pray or reflect, our minds can be pulled in 100 different directions. But in those early morning hours, everything slows down. The world outside is still. The house is silent. Even your thoughts may be quieter. And in that sacred silence, God finds the space to speak. God is always speaking, but we are not always listening. It's not that he stops trying to reach us, but that we often don't have the stillness to receive what he's saying. The early hours strip away the usual noise and make room for clarity. In the quiet, our hearts are softened. Our worries haven't yet been reignited by the day. We're in a posture of stillness that makes us more spiritually sensitive. That's when the whisper of God can finally be heard. Not through a loud thunder, but through a still small voice that requires intentional quiet to discern. Think about it. Jesus himself often withdrew to quiet places early in the morning to pray. Not because he couldn't pray at noon or at night, but because there's a depth of communion that only happens when the world is silent and the soul is still. When you wake up at 3 a.m. for no apparent reason, and it happens consistently, that's not coincidence. It's often an invitation from God to enter into that quiet space where he can reveal what he's been waiting to say. In those hours, there is less resistance. Your mind is not yet racing. Your heart is not yet guarded. Your spirit is not yet distracted. God uses this window not because he needs it, but because you do. It's in the quiet that his words can settle deeply. Sometimes you might not even hear a clear sentence or vision, but you'll feel peace that you didn't have before. That peace is a message in itself. It's his presence confirming he's near. God doesn't compete with chaos. He waits for quiet. The middle of the night or the early dawn is often when heaven feels closest. The veil feels thinner. Your soul becomes more alert even though your body is tired. That spiritual alertness isn't random. It's divine timing. God may be giving you direction, conviction, encouragement, or just inviting you into his presence for no reason other than love. He doesn't always speak to instruct. Sometimes he speaks just to be with you. The silence of the world becomes the canvas on which God writes his words across your heart. When you wake up between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., it's easy to assume it's just a restless night, an overactive mind, or perhaps a change in routine. But often it's not a disruption, it's a divine invitation. God doesn't operate on our human schedules. He moves according to purpose, not convenience. Those early morning hours are not just random fragments of time, they're sacred appointments. When he wakes you, he's inviting you into a moment that carries spiritual significance. It's not about losing sleep. It's about gaining something eternal. These moments are not meant to annoy you or disrupt your rest. They're designed to draw your attention to something greater than your physical comfort. You may find yourself wide awake for no logical reason. There's no noise, no stress, no dreams pulling you out of sleep. It's as if something gently nudged you awake. That nudge is often God calling you into communion with him. He doesn't shake you, he stirs you. Not because he wants something from you right away, but because he wants to give something to you. Peace, clarity, direction, or simply his presence. We are often too busy for divine moments during the day. Even when we try to make time for God, our attention is divided. We bring our schedules, our worries, and our distractions with us. But in those early morning hours, there is nothing vying for our attention. The world is quiet and your soul is more likely to respond. That's when the invitation becomes clear. It's not loud, it's not dramatic. It's subtle, tender, personal. It's God saying, come away with me for a while. God doesn't wake you up because he needs your prayers in that moment. He wakes you because he sees an opening in your heart. He sees a moment when you're not surrounded by noise or pressure. He sees a moment when he can reach you without interference. That is why he often chooses the hours when no one else is calling your name, when no task is demanding your hands, when no screen is occupying your eyes. It's in those hours that your soul is most receptive. Divine invitations aren't always about what you must do. They're about what you must receive. Maybe you're being invited to reflect on something he's been trying to show you. Maybe he's calling you into intercession for someone you love. Maybe he's simply inviting you into the safety of his presence. You may not get all the answers, but you'll get what you need because he knows what your soul is missing before you do. That 3 a.m. wake-up call might not be about solving a problem. It might be about shifting your perspective. It's a chance to tune out everything and tune into him, to step away from the surface and step into the deep. The invitation is there, not as a command, but as a gift. All that remains is how you choose to respond. When God wakes you between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., it might be because he's preparing you for something ahead, something you can't yet see, something he knows is coming, and something that requires a deeper strength, a clearer mind, and a more anchored heart. God sees the whole picture while we see only fragments. He knows what tomorrow holds, and sometimes he begins to shape us for it in the hidden hours of the night. That early wake-up isn't punishment or coincidence. It's preparation in progress. The things that truly matter, the callings, the assignments, the breakthroughs, they are often prepared in secret before they're revealed in public. Just like a tree grows deep roots before it shows fruit, your spiritual life must be grounded in moments no one else sees. Those early morning wake-up calls are not for show. They are part of God's private training ground for your soul. They are where He sharpens your discernment, matures your faith, and conditions your spirit. You may not feel anything dramatic in the moment, but transformation is often quiet and slow. Whoa. And God, the master potter, works best when the clay is still. God does not waste time. If He is interrupting your sleep, it's because He sees something important on the horizon. He knows the weight of the assignment He is placing on your life. He knows the pressure you'll face, the decisions you'll have to make, and the people who will depend on your obedience. So He calls you away before the rush of the day begins. He invites you to train with Him when no one else is watching. That time alone with Him becomes your spiritual armor for battles you didn't even know were coming. Preparation is never convenient, but it is always necessary. In those quiet hours, God may be teaching you how to trust Him more, how to pray deeper, how to walk in faith rather than fear. He may be stretching your patience or revealing blind spots you've ignored. Every great purpose requires preparation. David didn't become a giant slayer in front of an audience. He became one in the fields while everyone else was asleep. Moses wasn't transformed in Pharaoh's palace, but on the backside of the desert. Jesus Himself prepared for His mission by withdrawing alone to pray, often in the early morning or all night. Being awakened early can feel inconvenient, especially when you're tired. But God isn't looking for your comfort. He's shaping your character. He's aligning your heart with His purpose. That moment between you and Him becomes a divine classroom where He teaches, equips, and strengthens you. You may not realize what He's doing until later, when you face a challenge and suddenly find yourself calm, ready, wise beyond your experience. That's when you'll understand. The early wake-ups weren't interruptions, they were investments. God was pouring into you before anyone else could take from you. He was preparing you in private so that you could stand strong in public. When God wakes you between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., it may not be for your own sake. It may be because someone else needs your prayers. God sees what we can't. He knows who is crying alone in the dark, who is fighting a silent battle, who is on the verge of giving up. And sometimes He looks for someone willing to stand in the gap, someone willing to wake up, to pray, to intercede, someone who may not even know what's happening, but trust that their prayers matter. That someone might be you. Intercession is one of the most powerful and selfless acts in the spiritual life. It is praying on behalf of others, carrying their burdens before God when they are too weak, too broken, or too lost to do it themselves. And God often stirs intercessors during the night because that's when He can speak without distraction. You may feel a sudden urgency or heaviness in your spirit. You may not know who or what it's for. But if you pay attention, you'll realize that it's not random emotion. It's divine assignment. The Bible shows us many moments when people were called to intercede. Abraham pleaded for Sodom. Moses stood in the gap for Israel. Esther fasted and prayed for her people. Jesus Himself intercedes for us continually. God works through people, and He looks for those who are willing to carry others in prayer. When you wake up in the early hours, it may be because someone's life is hanging in the balance, and your prayer can make a difference. You may never meet them. You may never hear the full story, but heaven sees it all. Sometimes you may be stirred to pray for a specific person. A name may flash through your mind. A face may appear in your thoughts. Other times you may not know who it's for. That's okay. God knows. He just needs someone to say, yes, Lord, I'll pray. Your obedience in that moment could be the very thing that shifts a situation, opens a door, breaks a chain, or saves a life. Spiritual warfare doesn't operate on human time. The enemy doesn't sleep, and neither does God. But while the enemy works in the darkness to destroy, God awakens His people in the darkness to fight back in prayer. It's easy to think that prayer is small or powerless, But in God's kingdom, prayer moves mountains. Prayer moves mountains. When he wakes you, it's not because you're insignificant. It's because he trusts you. He sees you as someone willing to be used, someone sensitive enough to hear his call, someone willing to do something, even if no one else sees. The beauty of intercession is that it's not about recognition, it's about relationship. It's about caring enough for others that you're willing to lose a little sleep to fight for them spiritually. When you say yes to interceding, you become part of something bigger than yourself. You step into a battle that matters, armed not with weapons, but with faith, love, and obedience. When God wakes you between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., it might be because he misses you. Not in a vague or distant way, but in the most personal and intimate sense. God created you for relationship, not just for tasks, duties, or religious routines, but for closeness. And sometimes life gets so busy, so noisy, so full of distractions that we drift away from the very one who breathed life into us. He watches your days fill up with meetings, phone calls, entertainment, and plans. He sees your heart grow weary, your spirit run dry, and your prayers grow shorter. Not because you don't love him, but because your attention has been scattered. So he calls you in the stillness when the world is quiet and your heart is more available. That gentle awakening in the early morning hours is his way of saying, I miss our time together. God is not needy. He doesn't lack anything, but he does desire you. He delights in you. He longs to speak to your heart, to comfort you, to remind you of your worth, to fill you with peace before the world tries to empty you again. When he wakes you, he's not just calling you to read a verse or say a quick prayer. He's inviting you to linger, to listen, to rest in his presence. He wants to meet you before the noise of the day can cloud your thoughts. He wants to love you in the quiet, so that you carry that love into everything you do. Think about how often we seek God only when we're in need. We come with lists, requests, and worries. But what about when he seeks us, not to get something, but simply because he enjoys our presence? He doesn't always want your performance. Sometimes he just wants your heart. Just like a parent checking in on a child in the middle of the night, he watches over you with love. And sometimes he gently stirs you not to give you answers or assignments, but to remind you that you are seen, known, and wanted. In those early morning hours, you don't need to come with eloquent words. You don't need to have a perfect prayer. Just show up. Just sit with him. Talk to him like a friend. Pour out your heart. Let the silence become sacred space. Let your soul breathe in his nearness. Because it's in those moments that intimacy is restored. When you answer that divine call to meet him in the quiet, you'll begin to sense his presence in deeper ways throughout your day. You'll feel more anchored, more peaceful, more connected, not because life got easier, but because your heart returned home. So the next time you wake up and the world around you is silent, don't roll over and try to dismiss it. Pause. Lean in, whisper, here I am, Lord. Because sometimes the most powerful encounters with God happen not in the crowd, but in the quiet. Not in the daylight, but in the dark. Not when you're asking for something, but when you simply answer the one who's asking for you.